Hello, Cardstack community. My name is Chris Tse. I'm the founding director of the Cardstack project. Welcome to another episode of the AMA, Ask Me Anything. We have collected a bunch of community questions since the last time we've done one of these. And I'm excited to share some of our progress and with you so that you can have a better understanding of the work that we're doing towards building the experience layer of the internet. That was our original white paper title, as well as building the collaborative OS for Web3, which is our current tagline of trying to cohesively bring together different aspects of Web3 that may be foreign to people who have not used crypto, blockchain, or smart contract, but create that seamless on-ramp that when the use cases and protocol in Web3 matures, they can come in by way of Cardstack and our infrastructure, where there's our apps and stuff and protocols, to be able to actually use it as easily as they would use in Instagram or TikTok or SaaS app if you're a business user. So I'm going to start giving a brief introduction on, for the people not familiar with the project, on kind of what we're working on at Cardstack currently and what we've shipped, and also and then jump into different strategic product protocol, a marketing question that's been collected. There's also opportunity for you to ask questions in a chat, and we'll see if we can address them at the end. There's a lot of questions that was submitted prior to the start of this this Zoom or this webinar, which will also be published on YouTube. So I want to try to use the time and wisely and try to get through as many of them as I can. So first, I'm going to begin with just giving a sense of the project landscape. So when someone says, hey, what is Cardstack working on? We're really working on three pillars of the infrastructure. One is we're focusing on the app. So the experienced app suite, what people actually see on mobile and on the wallet. And this is really about delivering a experience that allows user to have self-sovereignty in the wallet. So we have distributed, I think, many releases. I can't count how many, to the App Store on iOS and Google Play Store on Android, of a wallet that uses a Web3 wallet concept, Wallet Connect and stuff like that. So it's totally self-sovereign. The user has ability to control the keys. We cannot control the funds. It is a self-sovereign, self-hosted wallet. And that's going to be the foundation of the journey of people onboarding onto a wallet and being their own person and having their own keys from that point onward. What's unique about the Cardstack wallet is that it is a smart contract wallet. So it allows people for social recovery, for the ability to share access to team members or family members in the future. And we use Multi-sig, which was basically the de facto multi-sig wallet on the Ethereum blockchain to do that. So we are one of the few Multi-sig-based self-sovereign wallet that is totally decentralized on Google and App Store. Companion to that is that we're also building a Cardstack Web Suite, which is a web application. And at this point, is really a web application tool set that we're launching different tools with different features. And you can see pay, bridge, market, space, reward, staking, different features that may manifest themselves in the web or the wallet that allows people to interact with our protocol. So we're working on a set of protocols that is dealing with payments and billing, the ability to use stablecoin, which is one of the most exciting things. So you can pay people and settle bills or contractor relationship, or in some cases buying things using on-chain transaction, especially if you want fast, easy, and cheap transaction on their two blockchains. So our application and our protocol is tied together in that way. But the most important thing that we're working on in our protocol, like the unique thing, is the idea of the tally protocol, which is our analytic protocol, which allows us to look at the transaction history that you're performing on-chain. In this case, on one chain, but the infrastructure is done enough so you can look at transaction on multiple chains, what you've done on mainnet, what you've done on Polygon, what you've done on Gnosis chain, and then give you new stuff like airdrops. And that's what the reward system is. We're using the on-chain transaction history processed by Tally, which is an off-chain compute, we'll get to that in a second, to produce reward. And that's also how we did our staking system, which was the last thing we launched, which is a lot of staking, just put the thing on mainnet and then the stake kind of grew there. This way, we can actually look at any signal that you do on-chain and then use that analytic to inform the blockchain to allow you to claim different different aspects of it. So the application and the protocol, the wallet, the app, the web app, and the protocol has been kind of working in conjunction, and we've been shipping and upgrading this feature since 2021 in this particular form. And a lot of the things like card space, which allows us to create user profile, which is also something that is tied to some on and off chain record, all that stuff has been shipped this year. The Cardstack framework is really our extensibility story, which is with these apps and protocol, do we as the Cardstack team have to build every feature? And right now, the answer is, yeah, we do build every single feature and we find a way to work on the engineering. But we would like to be able to allow developers who are working on either Solidity or JavaScript on the front end to be able to extend this capability. Say, hey, I have a new type of things, payment method. I want to integrate a card pay. I have a new chain. I want to integrate the bridge. I have a new type of NFT membership. I want to add it to the market. I have a new type of module to add it to this profile page for lead generation or minting. I want to add it to the space. I have a new reward program. I want to add a card reward. I have a new staking model with a new type of logic to determine who gets what. I want to add it to card staking. So how do they add that? And they add it through the Card SDK, which is a way to encapsulate the logic so that it can be added to a catalog and then being run in runtime to put it into this system. So the ultimate goal is for the application of app and the protocol and the framework to work together with the extensibility points in the framework. But to do that, we're actually working on the framework, the version 3 of the framework, which used a lot of our ideas and concepts in the previous version for indexing and having databases, but doing it in a way so it can run entirely in the browser. There's been more and more attention to focus on, can we decentralize the UI of crypto? So it's not just hosted on a website that can be blocked or could go away if the team kind of leaves or something like that. We want this to be open source code so that anybody who submitted the code for their card and the framework itself, Cardstack framework has been open source ever since its origin as MIT license, to be able to run that whole thing, kind of like WordPress or other type of truly open source tool with the plugins. Is in this case, the plugins are the modules that's written in Card SDK, which are true ES module for the developer in the room. So we want to be able to have that infrastructure run entirely in the browser. So we can use the modern browser infrastructure to create these new extensions that doesn't depend on a hosting company. And that was a really big ambition that we went from what we call the previous hub version of it, which we use in the app and the protocol, to one that's in the runtime, the user service worker. And that's the V3. And that's currently being done kind of separate from the app and the protocol, with the goal that when the V3 protocol is complete in a form that our team, using CardPay Bridge Market space reward and staking as a use case, will integrate that framework so that we can review these new cards and new things that are written as modules, in some cases using software, in some cases configure using no code, to the app and review it on the web, and then to the wallet, review it within your mobile experience. And obviously participate in the protocol for compensation so that people who build the cards can get a proportional revenue for the commercial activity that they facilitator. And that type of relationship is set up in the card catalog. So that's generally speaking what we're working on right now. Again, the framework right now is an R&D project focusing on taking all the ideas and all the code base were written within the Cardstack framework and then upgrading it to this runtime approach in a browser-only way. I hope this is a quick kind of 4 or 5 minute summary of what we're working on. And then I'm going to jump into various set of questions. We'll start with strategic questions, which is just questions about, like, what is Cardstack in a row, and then we'll go into other things. And I'll try to spend about a minute per slide or per question. These are submitted ahead of time, and then we have some additional questions that will be collected based on what the questions asked during this webinar on Zoom. So the first question is, what is the biggest pain point in Web3 that Cardstack's trying to solve? I think this is simple. Web3 is a very difficult thing to enter for a regular person. You either have to know how to use MetaMask in the wallet, or you have to understand crypto as a concept. You have to be a savvy trader, and you have to kind of understand the culture and economics, and you have to know the very specific blockchain development tools and how to use them and how to interact with them in a signature way. None of these things make a lot of sense to people right now. So our goal is to make it very smooth on-ramp where you can download a wallet and then start interacting using the wallet as the second factor or the first factor to log an application, and everything is guided for you. So this on-ramping process requires us to not just say, we are a dApp provider, we create a dApp, it's a protocol, it does one thing, please learn how to use the rest of Web3 and then use Cardstack. We kind of have to own the whole user experience. That's why in the triangle you just saw, we're trying to build these protocol and then build the infrastructure and the knowledge and experience so that we can go ahead and say, hey, this is the place where everything makes sense together. The best analogy is Apple. Apple taught people how to use mobile device without having to like integrate 10 different things. The iPhone ecosystem is cohesive, and we want to do that for Web3. So that's why we have talk about the land of the Web3. There's many things component that we expect and planned Cardstack, especially with the extensibility framework that we're working on right now, to be the main way where developers and projects deliver the on-ramp to their protocol or their community as a card. And then we distribute the catalog, and then people don't need to know about the catalog, and they just use the wallet, tap on a button and say, oh, there's a thing I can join, tap a button, and that card experience connect them to many ecosystems that currently are in different Discord group and different dApp. You need to learn the different plugins and wallets and browser plugin. It's all cohesive, and that's what we're trying to solve, the on-ramp problem and the cohesive experience problem. How do you think Cardstack is helping people access the benefits of crypto? If you need to know you're using crypto, I think we have missed the boat. I think the whole point about is that we believe that crypto and Web3 is a technology, is the next generation technology that adds to the web, that adds to the mobile ecosystem. And the way to do it is to see that some of the features you're using today are starting to be faster, like easier, with less, for example, stablecoin payments are that. You wouldn't think about it as stablecoin payment. You would just say, oh, I was able to send something to a contract and it was really fast. And we'll just, oh, you actually signed a transaction on a multi-sig to have 2 approval to send a fund from your company's treasury without having to log into like 3 different dashboards and stuff like that. So I think the goal is to look at the Web2 use cases, the use cases of tech as it is today, and then translate it without any friction to crypto, and then having the in-app purchases and the notification in your wallet seamlessly connected to a Face ID, so that people are using crypto underneath the experience of Cardstack without knowing that. So I think the benefits of crypto is a new, more decentralized, more egalitarian, and more transparent way of doing business, but it cannot be at the expense of making it more difficult to use, and that's what we're focusing on. In the recent tech update, we talk about a B2B product. What is it? So I think one of the things that we started with to kind of unite our protocol framework and the app was to use a kind of simple use case, but it's actually pretty challenging, which is Card Pay, which is the ability to do kind of WeChat Pay or Venmo style payment, QR code to people, scan each other, pay other people for things. That actual use case actually require us to do all the infrastructure of like, how do we create the smart contract wallet people? How do we make sure we automate the thing? How do we make it 1 step instead of 2 step? How do we do it in a fast and easy way in the layer 2 blockchain? And how do we facilitate the UI so that the approval for the payment is sensible and not some crazy message stuff? And that particular thing is really helping us integrate end to end the ability for us to do this payment infrastructure. And then when we show people this infrastructure, the people who are using crypto today, a lot of companies use stablecoin to pay their vendors and their freelancers and employees and stuff like that, especially DAOs and NFT projects and stuff like that. And they say, hey, could I have a way to use the same payment system to actually do like invoicing and payment? So it was one of the things that once we were able to smooth out the consumer transaction, we were able to say, hey, we can extend this capability that we've done in this end-to-end mobile product and then turn it into a product that supports business use case, which obviously opportunity for us to have a charge protocol fees or have certain kind of evaluated product that creates more excitement. So the B2B product is something that would be something that we'll be launching in the next 3-4 months, and that it's built on the capability we already have. The most important thing is that we're hearing a lot of people say, hey, I actually want to be able to use my balance on mainnet, on Polygon, on these popular EVM chains, and we will support those. But it is going to be done together. The multi-chain effort is well underway, and to ship a product where you can pay people with different tokens, not just the token that we create called the CPXD token, but any token that is available, kind of canonical stablecoin on the various networks. What is Cardstack planning to go do with the card protocol? The card protocol is really initially our analytic protocol. Like we wanted a protocol that will do billing for software. So Cardstack is building the software ecosystem where developer contribute their cards, and based on how your cards are being used, you get a compensation like a royalty stream or something like that. And that allows us to create open source sustainability. That was originally in our white paper. So the card protocol has always been, about the CA and RD, which is customer acceptance, and then revenue distributions. Like who are you accepting the customer, like accepting the cash coming in, and then when the cash is mediated through a protocol, in this case the card protocol, it's much easier to say take 1% of this, 3% of that, 0.2% of that, and then pay it to the people who are building the upstream open source tools. So the card protocol is always about fair income distribution within a thriving ecosystem, where the top line revenue coming through the customer cash when they subscribe to a SaaS product, when they do a transaction, they pay a person, there is a money flow or value flow through a network. So this protocol right now is kind of, with a specific use case that looks like payments or reward or airdrop, we're going to generalize this protocol to essentially a protocol that takes any mediated payment and then using analytics, so actual like number crunching, to determine who owes what commission, and maybe even follow chains or referrals, and then say, hey, the analytic engine say this is a split among the pie of 100%. These are the fair attribution for each of the participant, whether they wrote the code, provided the data, did the sales, made the call, invited the people, or did the YouTube video maybe. This is what they get in this particular transaction. It's done in a way that's rolled up, so you don't have to go to collect 2 cents here and 4 cents here and 50 cents here just because it's commission. You can roll it up altogether in a pool and use the claim function, very similar to the reward claim function you see in the wallet, and claim it in bulk with recurring. So you can roll it over. So if you don't get it every day, you can wait until a month or 2 or 3 later and claim your Cardstack or card protocol earning. We're going to give this protocol a new name because I think card protocol, Cardstack wallet, card, it's too confusing. But that will be an announcement that will coming in the future, where we're going to group all the protocol together with our advanced payment and revenue distribution, and it's going to be under a new protocol family name. But yeah, this is a really big part of our goal, taking the learnings we have about using Nose to Save not only as an end user wallet, but actually turning this multi-sig into the different components of the workflow. So the revenue pool will become a Nose to Save. The ability to do the protocol fee is a Nose to Save. The ability for you to say, hey, I have a DAO of 3 people who will split the money. Your splitting money capability is also saved. So you're always in control of your funds, but we just help orchestrate the flow and the cascading of value across these different saves using the protocol as a kind of a router, like a plumbing network, and using our analytic engine to allow us to say, okay, so this portion goes there, and then for the next save, this portion goes there. The next question is, where do you see Cardstack standing 3 to 5 years from now in terms of usability, and visibility? I think those things are very correlated. The more usable our product is, the more user you get, the more user, the more visibility, the more user. But the key part is usability. So right now, our focus is to make sure that all the system is usable for users, from a mobile wallet point of view, that with the framework usable for developers, interacting with user, and for the protocol, easy for developers. Not just developer who knows smart contract and Solidity, this kind of Ethereum development thing, but any JavaScript or even Python developer who is building analytics or data reporting or data science pipeline. Those are the developers we want to be able to invite and say, hey, do you know how to build a recommendation engine using kind of like off-the-shelf data science tool? Do you know how to do spam filtering? So we have a lot of spams in crypto, and you can do that using traditional data science tool, analyzing machine learning and stuff, and AI, stuff like that. We want those developers to come here and build their analytic engine and deploy to our analytics protocol, or use JavaScript to deploy their cards or the UI for a new type of membership joining system. Those types of contribution will make Cardstack essentially the way where the code is being aggregated. So the catalog is the main thing, and also the user experience from the catalog, especially for users who are using our SaaS service, they can access that entire catalog. But here's the key. We don't expect us to be the only hosting company of all the Cardstack application. The same way WordPress, Automatic, the company behind WordPress, is not the only WordPress hosting company. There are many WordPress hosting companies around the world. We want our software to be ubiquitous, the catalog to be the canonical one that people submit software to distribute, to access Web3 features everywhere. But we see the actual network to be people participating in our protocol ecosystem, getting a slice of the protocol fees or the user subscription fees, and then building their own front end and building their own customer on-ramping situation. So an ecosystem like WordPress is where we see ourselves, and it's going to hopefully be a symbiotic relationship between users creating a market for developers to say, you know what, I have this protocol I've done on Solana, I got to distribute this swap card that connects to my protocol into Cardstack to get more users who are using it in the accounting tool, and then they want to do a swap before they pay someone. We want that composability to be on the Cardstack platform and growing with the crypto market once it start realizing that it is not really just about speculation. In fact, it's not about speculation at all. It's about the idea that this technology actually can create that composability and connection between things that exist now in different logos and apps in a much more fluid way. That fluidity is now gated by the usability challenges of having to go to five different dApps and 14 different plugin wallets. And hopefully that's what we put into place. And once we unlock the usability, the visibility and the user will come. What's the status of the card compiler? The card compiler is one of those things where it's really simple idea of the fact that you have a mini application that works, and that part of the application that one developer built, let's say you build an address card, can be used in a person card, a contact card that another developer built, and you can just like the address uses that address template, and that's from another development. That person card or the contact card can be part of an invoice card. So it's like the invoice, pay this person, use a person card. And then that invoice can be part of a agreement, or at least reference agreement between two companies. Like this is 5 invoices on it. That composability, right, is what we're compiling together. So different codes from different developers can be nested and referenced in a way that it seems like it was built by one team, but in fact, it's built by different teams declaring, their fields and what their types are, and be able to say, hey, I accept any payment method that is crypto. And they say, okay, what are the type of crypto methods? And that could be cards as for Solana payments, Bitcoin payment, Ethereum payments, or even Venmo payments. And they all implement the pay user or pay action card. That compiler is really about how do we effectively, efficiently do this. And so the status of it is that we're working on making it so that it's extremely efficient. So some of the earlier versions of card compiler works completely. You can nest things together. But each time you open up a card, you have to go down and look at everything that's in the card and say, what is this definition? And the idea here is that takes a long time, right? As your composability goes up, you have to go and look up all the citations and say, what is the card that this other developer says this? The compiler basically is to say, let's summarize all that information, publish in a catalog, so that you just have to say, once you submit a catalog, we can just run that code without having to go down the rabbit hole of where it came from. So that work is already done. We're able to use the capability of the browser to traverse these relationships. There are still some work to be done to allow big enterprise customers to be able to store their own cards and pre-compile them. That's going to be in a later phase. But by leveraging the browser's ability, browser pulls in data and images from different sources all the time when you load a page. So the movement from the compiler to the runtime as an approach really helped us kind of review the vision of using this built-in web infrastructure to kind of build this web of dependency. And that's the work that's going on runtime and shipping soon. What's the status of card catalog? It was announced in June. So the card catalog has 2 components. One is the ability to build a catalog that is these cards. The other one is the UI to show what catalog we are. So we have announced that we want to show a catalog of what all the components are, and we're still working internally of curating Web3 projects and what they're working on and how they correlate to other things. What we want to do is launch that catalog on the data model and the runtime structure and the indexing structure of the compiler and the runtime we're working on in the framework v3. So we want the card catalog to be kind of the first exemplary application, right? Because it makes sense that if you're going to show a bunch of cards and let you browse them, that we're using an engine that renders card and using the engine and search and run them. We thought about like just launching our database separately as like a content website, but I think it would be good for us to use that as the test case, a trial by fire, to use the Card compiler and Card runtime to launch a catalog. So we're working on the UI aspects of it soon, not necessarily specifically around the kind of consumer experience, but the ability for you to submit a new card, the ability for you to see the definition of what this like invoice card look like, and that's all part of the work that we're doing on the compiler. Are you actively working on partnership and a guest on the fireside chat? So the fireside chat has been fantastic, right? Because it's I was having the way it started was that I was having some really good conversation with our marketing advisor, Kip Boltner, who is the chief marketing officer, CMO of a publicly traded company called HubSpot, one of the more successful SaaS company. And him and I connected last year, and he agreed to join us and advise me on building up, especially the B2B business, to be able to offer tools to customer and company who are looking to kind of have a footprint and give their either staff or employees or partners the Web3 account. And the conversation was so good that we asked, hey, why don't we record part of our conversation publicly? And that's where the fireside chat, the first episode, started. And since then, as we have more guests, at the end of every single one of these things, we end up talking about ways we can work together. We follow on those leads, but it's great to be able to synchronize on your idea, find guests and other people that comes on the podcast that kind of have the same vision. And then from that point on, say, hey, what are the ways we're doing? Some of the things, for example, about like subscription billing for companies that say, hey, I want to charge people who have Web3 or wallet balances instead of using a credit card to pay for my valuable service. I want them to use Web3, and so we're working on those things. Some of them was really excited about using our composable decentralized framework to put the UI together. So there are a lot of conversation going, and obviously, we don't want to change our priority to actually get through this integration between protocol apps and framework. But yeah, this has been a really, really fruitful starting point for us to have a rapport, sometime between me and a founder or executive within the organization, and then our team will follow up. So that you should expect that there will be selected. We're not a type of organization that will do one partnership a day just to announce 1,000 things. We want to make sure that when we are integrating, it's actually something that's part of the Cardstack experience. Okay, the second group of questions is protocol questions. So this is related to the launch card protocol and the different components to it. The first question is, will it get easier to acquire prepaid cards? The $25 cards have been sold out for a while. It's very complicated. There's no card drop and stuff like that. The answer is yes. What we're working on right now is that we've been using the crypto fiat on-ramp rail. So it's almost like buying crypto with wire. And which is integrated with Rainbow as a way to buy ETH or buy DAI. And those things are pretty hard to do because you have to use a certain type of debit card and a certain relationship. What we're working on is in-app purchase. So you can actually use the built-in kind of iPhone App Store, Play Store capability to buy these kind of tools. And right now we're using in-app purchase for profile. So you're not buying the spend or the actual unit and then buying the profile. You're actually buying it directly. That's where we're going to start it, but we're going to try to figure out a way to kind of think about these kind of spendable units as like in-game points, and allows you to buy them the way you will buy like 200 some points for a game you're playing. And by using the in-app purchase capability to buy these spendable thing, again, we don't want people to trade these things because that is something that you should go through these kind of like more crypto fiat on-ramp to do it. But for people who want to have the funds and the gas fee necessary to do a transaction, to claim a reward or something like that, we want to be able to support that. So it will not only get easier to do prepaid cards, buy prepaid cards, it will actually be integrated into the native App Store ecosystem. Next one is, what other chains are you planning to support and when? So supporting one chain is a way to allow us to focus our efforts to build the end-to-end user experience from the wallet to the protocol. Supporting more chain requires us to be able to automate our deployment of all the supporting services necessary. So supporting more chain, which is multi-chain, is a project we've been working on for 3 or 4 months right now. It's for the people who develop as a DevOps thing. It's about automation and monitoring and tracking your deployment and dealing with idiosyncrasies between the network. Our goal is to deploy to all the common EVM network, whether they are roll-ups or they are like layer 2 stuff like that. Obviously, they need to support Multi-sig. That's the primitive we use to create the units of account on all these things. And a lot Multi-sig team has been the SAFE team, I should say, they've been spun out from the Gnosis organization, has been working on a lot of these things. So anywhere you have Gnosis wallet, we can deploy, and we're planning to do that. We're just doing the preparation work to improve our automation so that we don't have to, like, let's say 5 times our sysadmin or operation. If we support 5 chain, it can become something we can use incremental resources to keep all of these blockchain synced, all the monitoring in a reasonable way, and we're using a language called Terraform or like a toolkit to do that. And once that happens, we'll roll it out based on community feedback. We expect to support mainnet for sure, but also like popular ones like Polygon, Arbitrum, and Optimism. These are things that is on our pipeline, but we're hoping that we'll end up supporting all of them. Next question, would there be more on-ramp provider to buy prepaid cards? We talk about in-app purchase, but yes, there are ability supports other ones. One of the issues that a lot of these other payment prepaid card providers doesn't have this kind of like white label solution. So which is what we've integrated right now, lets you like kind of totally integrate with the Apple Pay experience. But on Android, we have these kind of sheets come up that you have to understand the specific, like what are you buying, what is the fee, and sometimes get a little confusing. But I think we will end up supporting more of them so that not only for buying prepaid cards, but buying the tokens you need to operate on different networks, especially in multi-chain is something we want to do. It's not the super highest priority right now, but it is something we want to do in a pluggable way and provide more options for people in different jurisdictions. Next question is, why isn't an easier way to stake my card, and why can you do on the mainnet? You will be able to do on mainnet. So one of the reasons we chose to use the bridging mechanism that was part of the CardPay network as a way to stake is that there's already a safe way in order to contract from Cardstack, which is our mainnet bridge contract, and that's been audited by the firm TravelBit, one of the top auditing firm. And it's the safest and a way for us to say, hey, if you put your token in this particular smart contract on mainnet, it ends up showing up in layer 2 as a CPXD token, but the locking mechanism is already in place. So we're essentially using that particular smart contract as the first place you can put your mainnet card, so that we can recognize you having done that. It just happens that because we're doing some kind of bridging, the operation is more expensive than just putting it in a more normal staking contract on mainnet. But it doesn't really matter where you put them, it turns out, because our tally protocol just looks at your balance and then look at your first and first out, like, oh, you deposited so many tokens this day, you have this activity history from that day on, you did this thing, they gave you a boost. And then based on that, we'll say, okay, this month or this time period, you get this many token as a reward for being a part of the community. So that's staking in its nutshell. It doesn't matter where that activity is. Now, it does matter where we distribute it. We're going to continue to distribute our token on one of the chain, and right now we're on those chains, so that's our canonical chain for the card protocol. But we can have in the future, and this is something that I can't promise that will be really soon, where you can elect to say my preferred chain for distribution is mainnet, and I understand it might cost me some amount of money, let's say $35 in gas to claim it on mainnet versus, let's say, 2 cents or something like that to claim on another chain. But I would like to claim my token on this chain without having to bridge it. We can have you elect to get your distribution on one of the chain that our protocol is deployed in. So when that happens, not only do you not have to move your token to another chain, you can actually claim the additional token on one chain. This requires a little bit more, but the infrastructure of having that off-chain compute, study the balance on different things, and then decide where the airdrops are being placed. Obviously, there's a finite pool, which has to decide which one, and then the protocol have to deal with bridging. A bulk of it is like, okay, how many of 20% of the users want to be on this chain, 40% prefer to be on BSC or something like that. Then the token distribution will be done that way. Next question, is there a way to swap DAI.CPXD and Card.xyz within the wallet app? Yes. One of the reasons we can't do it is because there was a swap feature that uses Uniswap in Rainbow, which is the code base that we are really, we started with the Rainbow code base, but we are very different from them. We made lots of improvements and obviously the smart contract support. We have to add it back for us to allow you to use swap for the native token, the CPXD token. It's a good idea. I saw this question and say this is something we should definitely look into. Next question is the last update talk about off-chain compute. What is it? Why does it matter to the community in larger web space? As I mentioned, off-chain compute is how we do staking. We look at the on-chain history, do an off-chain compute. So it's not done on-chain, not using Solidity. It's just data science code that look at computation and grouping them like Excel operation, and then decide what the output is. We cut a file and we sign a Merkle root so we can use the blockchain to enforce and validate that particular thing. That off-chain compute infrastructure is completely flexible for extensions. So people can say, my staking model or my reward model or my airdrop model, my NFT gating model, who can access? Only if you own one of these for 10 days and those things for 4 days and you never participate in one of that and you hold this token and you participate in this DAO and you voted once, at least one in these places, will I give you the minting right? So that's a very complicated logic, very hard to write in Solidity. Our off-chain compute infrastructure can compute that for you. If you can write your data, say I depend on data sets and this smart contract and this NFT collection, and then the results get written on one or more chain, and you can check it online on chain. And that capability, it really is the first time that data science, AI, and machine learning can become the programming language for Web3. It's a big deal. It's a much bigger deal than card protocol and analytic framework or card staking. It's really just marrying statistics and data processing with this kind of transactional processing that we get with Ethereum with that. You'll hear more announcement of us generalizing our off-chain compute into a separate protocol that include all of our payment and staking reward capability, but as like initial one or third or three algorithm with the ambition of having 15, 16 different out-of-box algorithm that you can get, plus anything that will come from the Cambian exposure of AI and machine learning. Okay, let's try to get through these product questions, which are people using our product in a way that allows us to learn about the Web3 experience. Are we planning any product launches yet? Yes, I think the 3 current in progress release, which is our B2B app, so supporting invoicing and cross-chain payment on different coins, not just our own CPXD token. That's being in the works. That should launch this year. That we're building a scheduling tool, which is really about automation. So the ability for you to say, I want to pay this person once a month, $6 or $6 USDC or USDT, and that is the foundation for our subscription billing. So allow people to do SaaS subscription using nothing but a balances within the wallet without being able to risk the company you subscribe to take all the funds. There's a protocol restriction on that. That's the second thing. And yes, we're also believing that we'll launch the first version of a user experience built on top of the framework v3. So one of each. And then some improvements to the wallet that you have talked about on in-app purchases and stuff like that. That would be pretty cool. So those are the things we slated to do, and it's already on the way. We have a development team of 20, which is quite big in this field. But they're really different teams of 3 and 4, and each one of them has a project lead, which is an engineer, as leading towards that process. And I expect all of them to launch at least one release this year. So maybe 3 or 4 different launches this year. What is the plan for Cardstack Wallet? Is Cardstack planning to advertise it? What is the future? Cardstack Wallet started out as essentially a payment wallet because that's the use case that allows us to drive everything else. But I don't know if you guys realize, recently we renamed Card Wallet by Cardstack to Cardstack Wallet. And then it's actually called Cardstack when you install it in your phone. That's the user experience. Like we're moving the Card Pay wallet arguably, into the Cardstack mobile app. So this is the way you will access the Cardstack ecosystem. Within it is obviously key management, ability to deal with funds and saves and stuff like that. The way we're going to do it is that to use any of our apps, you need to install the Cardstack wallet, the Cardstack mobile application, and that is the way you log in. So it's almost like a second factor where you're checking Face ID, and that is the login. So it's your passport into the Cardstack ecosystem. So it's a prerequisite. So anytime anybody uses the Card ecosystem or the Cardstack ecosystem, the Cardstack wallet is most likely the way that they will come on, because we have all the features for notifications and getting you to sign things that will be possible if you use MetaMask or another wallet, but it's optimized if you use Cardstack wallet. So that's how we're going to market it. How will the multi-sig work on the Cardstack wallet app? Right now, every single balance account or prepaid card on the Cardstack wallet is a multi-sig of one user. We haven't added multi-user UI, but the infrastructure is there. But we expect the Cardstack wallet to be something, let's say you're part of an organization and you have the ability to have a Pedicat account to buy certain things, you will be able to be one of the signer with all the employees or all the DAO contributors to sign something. Now, if you have a treasury account, something that's bigger, something that has more money or more value in it, you need 2 or 3 signatures. All that stuff will be supported in the Cardstack wallet as like, almost like, approving things in a SaaS app. Like, do you want someone to see your Google Doc or something like that? And that capability is technically in the Cardstack wallet, but we haven't reviewed it because we haven't done the multi-user thing. The B2B product, the ability for us to allow business to get the employees' account to send balances, is really the use case that drive the adding of the multi-sig or multi-user capability within the wallet experience. What exactly is the difference between CardSpace and Card.xyz? Card.xyz is just a way for us to join the XYZ bandwagon. CardSpace is general purpose. It's just when we render a card from our framework, it's in a CardSpace. So Card.xyz is a particular hosting of that type of like user profile link tree type of card space that reflect your profile. We actually want to turn Card.xyz into a verified profile so that if you, let's say, work for a certain DAO, on your Card.xyz, there will be, are you a verified member of that DAO? Either because you're in the Discord group, it would be better if you were multi-sig in one of their treasuries or one of their wallets or pods, or something like that. So we can use the wallet relationship, like who is giving actual signing rights to whom, or at least ability to represent, and use that as a way to say, hey, you can trust that this person actually is from finance because it's in the directory, and then you can trace the record. Right now, if you create like some profile page, you can claim to be Elon Musk if you want. But with wallets, we can verify that this person actually have signing rights on this particular thing, and that's a very useful thing. For the user profile features, this is where Card.xyz username.card.xyz is. And that's really an instantiation of CardSpace for the user profile identity use case. You mentioned a tech update, you provide module and feature, and CardPay user can optimize what modules are though. I think it's the idea that like if you need to do schedule payment, you install a schedule payment module to your account. If you need to do payment splits, you want people to you want to pay commissions. These are all kind of complex payment use cases that is certainly possible if you just use MetaMask and click buttons, but it would be better if it's automated. So we want to create these different type of splits, claims, drops type of capability, and say, instead of having you to switch apps and move your funds from one app to another app just to use the feature, you can keep your funds in your same save, your same multi-sig that maintain the same multi-user role, and add features to it by adding module. And that's the cool thing about the Gnosis Safe module ecosystem, is it can add capability to this, and then we're just taking advantage of that extensibility that already exists in the ecosystem and providing a UI for it. And in a lot of cases, these modules are kind of powerful, so they can move funds. So you want to make sure they're validated and written well. So we want to write the modules and then allow the user to install them. But we don't expect users to just write their own modules because it's too powerful. It's like writing a driver for your computer and can crash it. But if it's a well curated and you can choose which driver to use, that would be a pretty cool thing. How will the scheduling tool work? For user, you just say, I want to pay this person every $5 every month, and then we'll deduct balance. We'll tell you on screens what kind of balance you have. In the future, we might even like notify you that, hey, but your balance running out, your subscription going to end if you don't fund this wallet. But the cool thing about it is the scheduling tool can never take more money than you have signed. So it's transaction of what deal or what subscription or what billing or recurring billing, it's totally under your control, but you can cancel it. But once you set it up and you like forgot it, like go on vacation or something like that, we have a crank, which is a automation process that will keep this going without you having to go back and send another thing. It's actually automated. The cool thing is it's entirely done in a decentralized way and private way. So nobody knows they have a scheduled payment payout until the scheduled payment is done. So we've worked a lot about, what is the aspect that needs to be a centralized compute kind of looping structure, and also looking an eye in the future where these kind of cranks or these kind of automation loops, these cron jobs for developers in an audience can be more decentralized. But right now, it's a service we provide that is trustless and is non-custodial, so we do not control your funds. But once you set a relationship, we keep that going by doing the second part of the transaction using the safe modules. What is the plan for the card builder? Your no-code drag and drop too. We have built this no-code builder a couple of times on top of the previous version of the Cardstack framework. We'll build a new version of it using what we've learned. The design system that allows for drag and drop is actually based on the design system of Voxel, which is used everywhere within Cardstack, and we'll continue using that code base, that design system, to reflect a form, a collection, a field, a button, and stuff like that. And then the drag and drop code builder is really using those components. But how are those components like glued together or snapped together in the Lego sense? That's changing with our runtime and our new SDK. But we're going to go revisit the card builder user experience in the drag and drop. It also relates to the animation engine. There's another repository called Animation Experiment working on a new orchestration engine. We're also integrating that work in so that when you're dragging something, you're actually animating it. We're clicking on something, it zooms out, it's also being animated. But it's all part of the framework. It's not like decorations or animation for fancy sake. It's actually part of the way to help you understand what's going on in this type of composability. Next one, can apps be built on Cardstack move to Web 2? All web that is built on Cardstack is natively, web. All right, it's just a JavaScript application that has a data source, and the data source can be sourced from a blockchain or it could be sourced from your local file system. In fact, the current card compiler that's being iterated on in the public in the open source way actually just use the file system on your computer as the source of the cards. So the cards doesn't really need to be Web3. And if you don't have no authentication, you're just like viewing some open wiki that anybody can edit, you don't even need a signing. You can do that. So there's nothing about the Cardstack framework that's specifically Web 2 or Web 3. It's just a way of rendering and storing data on a browser or assisted by a server or sometimes stored in the cloud or the blockchain. With that being said, we are using the Web3 model for monetization, so subscription billing and royalty payment for developers. We're using the Web3 model for access control, using the multi-sig hierarchy as a way to determine who is part of one organization and allows you to sign and actually move funds and pay things and stuff like that. Those capabilities can be extended so that you say, but I prefer to use my existing accounting system to determine, or my Active Directory to determine who the users are. I would invite developers who are Web 2 developers to build for the Card SDK and turn some of our Web 3 integration to go back and integrate in the API. And obviously, you have to deal with the keys and stuff like that. But yes, I think with the integration to Web 2 cloud services, the same cards that work in Web 3 will also work in Web 2. Last question in this section, how would Cardstack scale as more users are onboarded? Scalability is about not sharing state. So one of the things we learned about Ethereum is that if everybody is writing to the same database, like Ethereum mainnet, it's very expensive. Cardstack doesn't depend on that. We can work on top of multiple chain, whether it's layer 2 or multiple layer 2. And the more the database or the blockchain or the data store or even IPFS as a way to store large data, it's not dependent on one shared state, but it's just the web of relationship. There's no general scalability challenge. If I can render a card as long as your computer is powerful enough to put all the buttons and things on there. So I would say that there's no natural scalability to Cardstack because we are a web platform, a browser platform, and that's how it's scaled. But as an organization, I think we're going to start looking at forming a broader community of DAO contributors, people doing code contribution, people running nodes if we're doing analytic things, and try to use the power of community and incentives to build a support structure for all the users that will onboard. But that's going to be something that should be done in lockstep with our user growth. So there are some questions around the marketing side of things. So I'll try to get through this quickly because we have a limited amount of time. Objective of fireside chat, it's just great conversation with people, build the relationship rapport. It's great market research for us to see what Cardstack technology resonate with which type of builders working on what. We also get a lot of information about what the experience in building other protocol and the adoption is. So it's just a really high resolution way for us to understand what's going on. It's great content. I think it's good educational content. Not necessarily in the moment where people are maybe not particularly interested in Web3, but it's definitely good to have a library, and it has a lot of things that allows us to anchor ourselves into the ecosystem. Before the fireside chat, we were very much like, hey, here's all the things we're going to do, and we seem to be in a bubble. And more, while we can still focus on what we believe is strategically important, we are, I think, really helping with alignment, and having all this market conversation on a weekly basis has been extremely helpful. And hopefully the content is interesting to the people who are generally interesting in what builders who are putting real efforts into are doing. And I'm personally very inspired by a lot of them. Some of them are been in the industry a long time. Some of them are just coming in the industry, and they all have something to offer. As we all know, Web3 has a big cooperation aspect. In what way Cardstack are reaching out to project collaboration? We're reaching out, and other people are reaching out to us. And based on what we've learned, we have aligned our roadmap to where we believe we can be most useful. The B2B things came from this kind of market conversation, and the integration of the protocol and the framework stuff is really how people want to integrate using widgets and stuff like that. And so that informs a lot of things. I think the next question of what kind of partnerships are in the future. We do substantive partnership when we're actually working and announcing we're actually working together. So when we were doing the nodes to safe thing and the Chainlink thing early on next time, we actually did that work. So we will announce when we are actually integrating. Next question, why hasn't any real marketing taken place? When will we see real efforts? Seeing the development has come a long way. I absolutely agree. I think development has come a long way. Marketing is challenging because you only want to spend effort and time and energy if you have identified an audience. And Cardstack has been a Web3 project in a general way. Like, we're working on this bunch of stuff with capabilities and potential, but with our kind of more focus towards the SaaS product being, hey, if you run an organization and interact with blockchain, here's a tool for you to organize your vendors and customers and employees. So that there's going to be a marketing focus on more like a B2B marketing. Our protocol, which is analytics and is for builders who want to use the capability, will be focused on that. And then obviously for JavaScript development, we have the framework. So you're going to see marketing in the future in very, very specific targets where we want to hone our message for developer, hone our message for B2B users, and hone our message for kind of data protocol developers separately, instead of just talking about Cardstack in generic. I think when those become more focused, it will become more visible. And that's when the real efforts and the real amplification can happen. Next question, are there any events planned for remainder year? We will take a look at the calendar. Obviously, travel is more and more possible right now, and I was delighted to be invited to speak in Paris for ECC. Hope to do that again. I want to make sure that the topic we're talking about is relevant to what we do. We don't want to just talk about what is the potential Web3 in commerce. Those are too generic. We're trying to be more specific. But once we have something that we feel is a good fit for the work that we're doing in the landscape, we'll absolutely show up. Are there any more POAPs on the way? Yes, as we have new product launches, we will align the people who show up on the front door with more POAPs, and I think it's a fun game, and I love that ecosystem. This idea of badging for attendance is really cool, and we'll certainly send more of those out. All right, there's some additional questions. Let me just refresh my screen, see if there's anything there. What is one interesting fact about Cardstack that we may not know? I think I didn't mention to you guys, I think since COVID, we have expanded much more internationally. So we used to be quite focused on one or two geographic area, but right now we have people from all around the world, South America, Asia, Europe, and stuff like that. So I think we're this global mindset to be able to get ourselves ready for more community participation from people through kind of DAO-like way, not necessarily just a DAO to do the core software. I think that's too hard to coordinate, but a DAO for contributor to the catalog, the new development around the world. I think having experiment with our own kind of internationalization of our own team and moving to a fully remote, everything is through Zooms and Discord and stuff like that has been really, really helpful and gets us ready for the next phase of getting more virtual kind of non-real life participation, and yet still being able to meet up in events and be a community together. Bridges have seen some security issue. How have you thought about how to make bridges to be safer? I think we're building rickety bridges that just connect two spots because there's so much need to say, I need to get from here to there. Can someone just make a bridge? And someone just use some wood planks and rope and make a bridge together. There are efforts in place that are building kind of more secure bridges. There's a couple that hasn't launched yet, and I think one of the reasons they haven't launched, for example, Chainlink is working on something called CCIP, cross-chain interoperable protocol. We've been in discussion with them on the progress of using that bridge. It's a hard problem, and I think it's one of those things we are seeing the value of a bridge, but also seeing the perils of rickety bridge. And this is not something we would do. I think we are using, even in our bridge, for Card Bridge, we're using the AMB, arbitrary messaging bus, that the Gnosis team is putting together for Gnosis Chain. We're just, relaying a message through their bridge. But when another bridge, especially ones that connect more chains, it makes it much easier for us to say, hey, the security of the bridge is done by this other set of validator or this new approaches. We'll keep our thing on it. But the message that goes through it, like our protocol message between someone paying you on one chain and you having your account on another chain, we will use their messaging system of a proven, validated, battle-tested network as our kind of a trusted conduit, and we're just passing our message on top of it. So Cardstack's not going to make a bridge. However, we'll use the bridge, especially multi-chain, multi-arbitrary, kind of flexible bridge as it happens. I think we've learned a lot. Every single thing about crypto is that when there's a hack, there's a learning that comes from the concept that exists. When there's a concept that exists, there's this opportunity for people to kind of build on top of that infrastructure. And bridges are now proven model, and based on those experience and the battle scars, I believe good ones will come out within the next year or so, and we'll integrate them. I believe this is the final question. How would community tokens work on Cardstack? Tokens are powerful incentives, especially for bootstrapping network. The important about tokens, and this includes NFT as well, like badges or memberships or even POAP, right, is that it provides recognition and possible secondary value, such as recognition or permission to do something, and maybe monetary value if those tokens are tradable. Some certain tokens, like soul-bound tokens, are not tradable, so it's mostly just recognition and history and credibility and provenance. They have to be carefully designed. So I think tokens don't exist outside or by themselves. Tokens exist to amplify and codify the relationship you do. So when you're saying community, it's like, who is a community? The Cardstack community right now is a community who is interested in this technology, interested in our approach, helping us test the software, giving us the tools necessary to be confident that our safe infrastructure, our bridge infrastructure, our wallet infrastructure is working together. But once we get beyond this kind of like play test type of phase of the thing and we're using it, the participant will be businesses, customers, people selling software, want to earn commission, and that's when tokens come in. Is that ability to use our analytic engine, Tally, to recognize through analyzing of your activity on chain, whatever you're doing, governance and minting, whatever it might be, and say, let's crunch number and say, what do we value? Who do we want to prioritize? And that can change, right? First month, we might be very valuing people who are promoting and being real fans and beating the drum beat, and you reward that more. Later on, you might need people who are maintainers, supporting people, answering questions on forums, and really helping people use the tool. And that priority may change over time. So that's the idea. I want the ability for us to not just like, I wrote a smart contract, here's my first idea about how we would distribute the token, and then it will be, that's it. We never change that again. All the tokens are used up, and whoever was there first basically got all the pizza, right? I want an approach, and this is why we have this kind of like, periodic staking approach in the Tally protocol, to do it piece by piece. So each time period change by, you can change your algorithm, you can change your rate. It could be from a core team making the decision. It would be better if it's from a DAO guiding those decisions as we change the priority so that we can emphasize with feedback loop. Hey, the rule for March was emphasizing too much of this and not enough of that. Let's change the rules. And based on our Tally system, that stuff can actually just, be tweaked the next month. The new algorithm runs. You don't need to necessarily do audit because you don't have to submit your proofs unless you find the results to be correct. So the nice things about using this off-chain compute we talked about early on is that it provides that capability for you to adjust over time. And that's essentially the most important thing to understand about Cardstack, right? So we have a build out phase that we have like behind us, right? Which is, can we build a thing that connects a protocol, an app, mobile, web, and a framework? The next phase is, can we use the latest version of framework, which is also the deepest work we've done, to allow it to be extensible for ourselves first, so our developer will use the framework to kind of rebuild or extend this app, and then open it up through the catalog for participation. And then using the incentives of tokens and incentive for NFT and the governance to be able to make sure that we can evolve with the population as we grow from a very small group of people identifying with what Web3 as something they believe in, and maybe less so recently with the challenges we face, but then expand that beyond that once we get to a point where it's like, hey, these tools are just as easy to use, the same way we're seeing in AI, right? People talk about AI forever, and suddenly you can just click on a website and make a picture using an AI engine with Stable Diffusion or whatever it might be, and it draws people in the field. I believe that moment will come, and it will be much sooner than we think. But that usability, that ability for us to integrate and remove the friction between the protocol and the app, mobile, web, and the framework is really what we are, I think, at the cusp of. And I thank you to the community for your support along the way and for your time and attention. And I'm hoping that I've been able to use this last hour to answer most of your questions. And until next time, take care.